speaker this morning is Mr. Christopher Hinchey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And while this has various meanings, I guess, when you're in a chapel, but good morning to those joining us in the cloud. We've heard some great talks recently, some complicated talks about evolution, the Big Bang Theory, molecular reactions, and the energy released in fire, and even integrity. In fact, I haven't actually heard so many students speak in the first month of school in all my time here. They've been exceptional. And the competitive part of me, and the scientist in me, maybe wanted to take it to a new level. But knowing that about 16 of you in here have to hear me talk again later today, and I feel sorry for you, I won't do that. I won't talk about electrical gradients and chemiosmosis and glycolysis. I can see your eyes glazing over already. But I'm going to take it down a level. Have you ever had a scoop of ice cream fall off your cone? And one of my favorite childhood memories is when my grandparents would drive across town and pick up me, my brother, and my two cousins and take us over to Dandy Dairy Bar on West Main Street in Norwich. I still love ice cream. In fact, ice cream was on right before sit-down lunch yesterday, and about 15 people snagged a serving. And it was on last night, and my boys had some too. I still love ice cream. In fact, I love the summer, and when I think of the summer, I think of ice cream. My wife and I would often take our boys to ice cream shops in the summer. It's one of our traditions when we're at the beach in Musquamaket. We often walk down to the carousel, play skee-ball, get ice cream, and walk home. Well, recently, my two oldest sons have taken a liking to hard ice cream. My oldest son, Ryan, likes it on a cone. And this is particularly precarious. So at the end of the summer, we were walking down, we played some skee-ball, and we grabbed some ice cream, and we were on our way home walking on the beach. And Ryan became just obsessed with the paper wrapper on the ice cream cone. In fact, to such an extent that as he tipped the ice cream fell off right in the sand. Now, the stakes were particularly high. We had an attractive 8-year-old blonde girl with us named Laura Smith, and we all know that shame increases dramatically when there's pretty girls around. But my son held it together. I was surprised and actually proud. Now, recently I read a book called How Children Succeed: Grit, Curiosity, and the Hidden Power of Character by Paul Tuck. The main thesis of this book was that innate intellect and IQ does not determine our success in this world. In fact, it's determined by grit, the ability to maintain determination and motivation over long periods of time, exhibit passion, push through adversity, and you often think of words like hardiness, resilience, ambition, need for achievement, and conscientiousness. Do you have grit? What do you do when your ice cream cone falls off the cone? A little over a month ago, I was reading Sports Illustrated, which has always been a passion of mine. It was actually when I first started to love reading, probably when I was about 8 or 9. Reading Sports Illustrated was particularly enjoyable. It still is. And in August 27th, there was a great article on two rowers, Oksana Masters and Rob Jones. And I was intrigued by their story, and it points to true grit. Oksana Alexandrovna Bondarchuk was born in the Ukraine in 1989. She was born with 6 toes, 5 webbed fingers on each hand, no thumbs, one leg that was 6 inches shorter than the other, and both lower leg bones missing a bone. You have two bones in your lower leg. And her kneecap floated, and one of her legs was shaped like a C. Her parents sent her to an orphanage. They abandoned her. They didn't want to deal with her. She was transferred once. She was transferred twice. She was transferred again to a 3rd orphanage. She was beaten daily and raped daily. The doctors attempted to break her legs and lengthen them by slowly breaking them and inserting screws and lengthening her bones by 1 millimeter every couple days. One time, she and her best friend Lainey tried to escape the orphanage, and they knocked some stuff over and woke the security guards. Oksana hid, the guards found Lainey, and beat her to death. Eventually, a woman from Buffalo adopted Oksana. The adoption was delayed while there was a 2-year moratorium because of child trafficking concerns. And the people in the orphanage told Oksana she wasn't being adopted because she was a bad person. Nobody wanted such a bad girl. In 1997, the adoption was finally passed, and Oksana joined her new mother in Buffalo. Initially, they had to amputate one leg above the knee. It was really irreparable. They then moved to Kentucky, and Oksana had tons of rehab with the hope that she might be able to save the other leg. When finally it became obvious that she wasn't going to be able to save that leg, she had surgery. Went into surgery thinking she was going to be amputated below the knee, and awoke to find her second leg missing above the knee. She was now a double amputee. She did have surgery to move one of her 6 fingers over to her thumb because she had no thumbs. So she had 2 surgically repaired thumbs. The person she rose with, Rob Jones, had more of a regular childhood. He grew up in Lovettsville, Virginia, on a 200-acre farm, and had a regular, normal childhood, except until he was about 10, when he kind of pulled within himself, stopped playing sports. He was a bright boy. He didn't have to study much, and he started playing a lot of video games and really keeping to himself. He went to high school and had an uneventful high school career and went to Virginia Tech, but then joined the Marines as a reservist. He did a tour in Iraq doing IED removal, and he returned home in 2008. In 2010, he was redeployed to Afghanistan, and he was working in the Sangre district when an IED blew up both his legs. Now, Rob and Oksana both are missing both legs, and they both connected with each other. Now, they rode together in the double scull pairs in the Paralympics category. And last May, they qualified for the Paralympics by coming in first in a meet in Serbia. And then this summer, they actually won the bronze medal in the Paralympics. Hours and hours of training. Oksana with no legs and 2 surgically repaired hands, and Rob, who had his life ahead of him as a soldier, missing both legs above the knees. Now, Masters was born with deformed legs, missing bones, amputated feet, malformed thumbs, and Jones lost both his legs to amputations. And they returned to win. Rob's not going to row anymore. He wants to run triathlons and compete in a cross-country bike race. Now, a month ago, I read a great book called The Power of Habit. And it talks about the fact that choices or habits are informed by your choices, and your choices are then informed by your habits. It's kind of a never-ending cycle. The more often you exhibit grit and willpower, the stronger your grit and willpower become. In fact, many studies have shown that grit and willpower in one area translates to grit and willpower in another. It's often why many of you who begin pushing yourselves in one area, the dramatics, sports, music, find yourself succeeding in academics. You learn these skills called grit. Now, how children succeed also pointed out a simple rule. The idea that general rules won't give you grit. Let's say you say, I'm going to eat healthy. That's actually not going to help you. Most studies will show you that won't give you the grit you need. You need to say, I'm not going to eat French fries. It needs to be specific. My father had actually given me a rule, and I don't know that he ever intended to give me the rule, but he would always walk around the house, and I got sick of it, listening to Hinchey's Never Give Up. And I didn't really appreciate the genius of that remark until later, when I started hitting barriers where you might want to give up. Limited my choices. There really wasn't an option. We just kept going. You didn't give up. So I would suggest that you find that rule. Now, in the waning days of summer, the Hinchey family drove to their favorite summer destination, which is Watch Hill. There's an old wooden carousel there, and there's a favorite ice cream shop that serves very good, somewhat expensive, ice cream. And it's a great place to go walk with your boys. So we went down there, and the boys rode in the carousel. Ryan did not get the golden ring, a bunch of brass rings. And then we headed down to the ice cream shop again. I ordered some mochaccino, Heather ordered some peanut butter cup, Will and Jack each ordered cookie dough, and Ryan, again, got it on a cone. Now, you would have thought he would have learned. Again, he started playing with the wrapper. Lost focus, and it tipped sideways, and the ice cream landed right on the dirty sidewalk. Much to my surprise, he held it together. Now, losing your ice cream feels awful. In fact, I actually wanted to buy him another ice cream. but I resisted that urge, knowing that the only way he might learn his lesson is to kind of live with that ice cream on the concrete for a little while. He pulled it together, and I must admit that the athlete in me was annoyed that the lack of coordination was extremely disappointing. But it didn't ruin our evening. He showed some grit. Now, not many of us in here can claim to have experienced the cruelty and the unfairness experienced by Oksana and Rob Jones. What I find impressive and humbling and inspiring is their grit and resilience. I am confident, though, that many of us have dropped an ice cream cone. And I guess I want to ask you, when you do it, how are you going to react? Thanks.